You know what's fascinating? Right now, millions of men are sitting in silence while their partner screams at them about something that happened 3 years ago. They're being told they're wrong for things they didn't do, apologizing for thoughts they never had, and somehow losing arguments about their own feelings. And when these men finally say, "I'm done," society acts shocked. Where have all the good men gone? They're gone. They checked out. They realize the game is rigged against them. Let me explain why so many men are walking away from relationships entirely, and why the number keeps growing every single day. Here's a test that reveals everything. Next time you're in an argument with a woman, try to identify what you're actually arguing about. I guarantee you can't, because it started about the dishes, moved to her mother, jumped to that incident in 2020, circled back to your tone, and somehow ended with you apologizing for her feelings. This isn't accidental. This isn't just how women are. This is a strategy, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Female emotionality as a strategic behavior is something most men never recognize. You think she's just upset, just emotional, just needs to vent. But watch the pattern. The tears come exactly when you're making a valid point. The anger erupts precisely when you ask for accountability. The confusion happens right when you need a straight answer. It's not random, it's tactical, and it works because you've been programmed to see female emotion as authentic rather than strategic. That calm her down reflex is exactly what the manipulation is designed to trigger. Instead of resolving the issue, you start managing her emotional reaction to the issue. Thus, the real topic of the dispute is immediately buried under an avalanche of her feelings. The manipulative dynamics of communication are masterful once you understand them. She doesn't want clarity. Clarity means accountability. She wants confusion because confusion means control. So, she'll bring up 17 different issues, mix past with present, blend feelings with facts, until you're so disoriented you don't even remember what started the conversation. You're playing chess while she's playing psychological warfare. The hidden belief systems that define control run deeper than most men realize. There are these unspoken rules, these myths that modern relationships operate on. And if you don't know them, you're already losing. The first myth, the mind-reading expectation, is absolutely insane when you think about it. She expects you to know what she wants without her telling you. And when you don't, it means you don't care enough to pay attention. It's a trap designed to make you feel guilty at all times. It creates constant tension, knowing you aren't a mind reader and will inevitably fail. It's a game where the rules are secret and losing is guaranteed. Think about this. If you went to work and your boss expected you to complete tasks without telling you what they were, then fired you for not doing them, you'd call that insane. But in relationships, that's just Tuesday. If you loved me, you'd know. No. If you loved me, you'd tell me. But that's logical, and logic has no place here. The second myth, emotional supremacy, is even more destructive. Her feelings aren't just valid, they're facts. She feels disrespected. Therefore, you disrespected her. Regardless of your intent, she feels unloved. Therefore, you don't love her. Her emotions become reality, and reality becomes negotiable. Your reality, your intentions, and objective facts are completely devalued. The weight of her experience instantly overrides any logic you can offer. You're no longer discussing what happened. You're discussing how she felt about what she thinks happened. A man has to prove his innocence against her feeling. How do you disprove a feeling? You can't. That's the point. It's an unfalsifiable accusation disguised as intuition. The third myth, double standards in emotional expression, is the most obvious. She can scream, throw things, say the most venomous words imaginable. That's just her expressing herself. You raise your voice once. You're aggressive, dangerous, abusive. She can have a monthly nervous breakdown. That's hormones. You have one bad day. You're unstable. This system ensures that the man never has the right to an emotional release. Any display of his frustration is immediately used against him as proof of his toxicity. One client's wife threw plates at him. When he raised his voice, telling her to stop, she called the police, claiming she felt threatened. He was removed from his own home. His raised voice was the crime. This isn't an anomaly. This is the system working as designed. The cultural reinforcement of female victimhood is everywhere. Every movie, every show, every article reinforces the same message. Women's emotions are valid. Men's are toxic. Women's anger is empowerment. Men's anger is abuse. Social media amplifies this exponentially. This digital echo chamber broadcasts a 24/7 narrative where empathy is reserved for only one side. A woman posts about being sad, hundreds of comments offering support. A man posts about being sad, man up, stop being weak. The message is clear. Male emotions only matter when they serve women. Otherwise, shut up and provide. The consequences for men in relationships are devastating. You're trapped in a game you can't win. Question her emotions? You're insensitive. Validate her emotions? You're admitting guilt. Try to find a middle ground? You're manipulative. There is no right answer because the game isn't designed for you to win. This hopelessness forces a man into constant, exhausting self-censorship. Every interaction becomes a minefield. You're constantly walking on eggshells, censoring yourself, calculating risks. You're not living, you're surviving. You don't have a partnership. You're a hostage to someone else's emotional state. The psychological exhaustion from this role, where you are always wrong and always in debt, accumulates for years until it breaks you. The unmasking, as empowerment, begins with recognizing these patterns. Once you see that her emotions are tactics, not truths, everything changes. Once you understand the myths aren't laws, you can break them. Once you realize the game is rigged, you can refuse to play. This isn't about becoming cold or cruel. It's about reclaiming your reality. When you stop accepting her feelings as fact, something changes. She either begins to respect the boundary or reveals herself as someone who needs control more than connection. Either way, you win. Men are waking up to this reality en masse. They see friends destroyed in divorce court, brothers falsely accused, fathers alienated from their children, and they're doing the math. What, exactly, is the upside to this arrangement? What are they getting that justifies this level of risk? The modern relationship offer to men is basically this: provide everything, expect nothing, pay for everything, own nothing, sacrifice everything, be guaranteed nothing. Be responsible for her happiness, but expect no reciprocity. Manage her emotions, but bury your own. And if she's unhappy for any reason, lose half your assets and access to your kids. Young men, especially, are looking at this deal and saying, no, thanks, and they choose video games, hobbies, friendships, careers, anything but relationships. Not because they can't get women, but because they've analyzed the cost-benefit ratio and found it severely lacking. The statistics are staggering: marriage rates at historic lows, birth rates plummeting, and instead of asking, what's wrong with the relationship deal we're offering men? Society asks, what's wrong with men? The lack of self-awareness is breathtaking. Here's what's really happening. Men are discovering they don't need what's being offered. They thought they needed relationships for happiness, for completion, for validation. Then they tried relationships and found misery, depletion, and criticism. So, they're trying life without relationships and discovering something shocking. It's actually pretty good. The social myth that a man is only complete as part of a couple is collapsing before our eyes. They are finding a self-sufficiency that decades of programming tried to take from them. It turns out, an internal void can't be filled by someone else, only by your own achievements and purpose. A friend told me something profound. I spent 10 years trying to make her happy and was miserable. I've spent 2 years making myself happy, and I feel fantastic. He has money now because no one is spending it. Peace. because no one is creating drama. Time, because no one is demanding attention. Energy, because no one is draining it. He's not anti-woman, he's pro-self. Instead of pouring resources into the bottomless pit of someone else's expectations, he's investing in himself. His bank, both emotional and financial, has finally started to grow. This new focus on self-investment is paying dividends that no toxic relationship ever could. The freedom men discover when they walk away is intoxicating. No more arguments about nothing. No more apologizing for existing. No more managing someone else's emotions. Just peace, growth, and actual happiness. But here's what's interesting. Many men don't even get angry about it. They just get tired, exhausted. They reach a point where the next argument isn't worth having. They don't leave in a rage. They leave in resignation. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. I see this exhaustion in men's eyes. They're not bitter, they're just done. They've tried everything. Nothing worked, because the game isn't designed to work. The strategic withdrawal men are executing is logical. If a business deal consistently loses money, you exit the deal. If a game is rigged against you, you don't play. Men are applying basic logic to relationships and reaching the obvious conclusion. The gaslighting that happens when men try to discuss this is predictable. You're just bitter. Who hurt you? But what, exactly, are they missing out on? The privilege of financing someone else's lifestyle, the joy of constant criticism, the thrill of walking on eggshells. Men are doing the calculation and realizing that modern relationships are like a casino. The house always wins. The shaming tactics are losing their effectiveness, calling men selfish for prioritizing their own well-being. These words used to control behavior, but they're losing their power. The dating market is revealing these truths in real time. Women wondering where all the good men went, while refusing to acknowledge what drove them away. Standards through the roof, while the value offered plummets. One acquaintance of mine complained that men only want intimacy now. They don't want to commit. I asked her what she offers besides intimacy that would make commitment worthwhile. She was offended by the question. But think about it. If you remove sex, what's the exchange? Companionship? Men have friends. Emotional support? Men support each other. Domestic help? Men can hire that. What is the unique value proposition? The answer used to be clear. Family, legacy, partnership. But modern relationships often offer none of these. Instead, they offer liability, criticism, emotional labor, and financial drain. The traditional benefits have been removed, while the traditional obligations remain. The deal has fundamentally changed. Men are realizing the myth-breaking necessary for happiness. The myth that you need a relationship to be complete. The myth that being alone means being lonely. The myth that male value comes from female approval. The myth that sacrifice equals love. These myths kept men imprisoned in bad relationships. Breaking them means freedom. The clarity that comes from stepping back is remarkable. Men who have been out of relationships for a while report feeling like they woke up from a spell. They can't believe what they tolerated, can't understand why they accepted it, can't fathom returning to it. The fog of emotional manipulation lifts, and reality becomes undeniable. The personal growth that happens when you stop managing someone else's emotions is exponential. Suddenly, you have energy for your goals, money for your dreams, time for your interests, peace for your growth. You discover who you actually are versus who you were trying to be to keep someone else happy. A client who left his marriage 2 years ago has transformed completely. Lost 40 pounds, started a business, rekindled friendships, traveled the world. He told me, I didn't realize how small my life had become, trying to fit into her world. He's not anti-relationship. He's pro-growth, and the relationships on offer were anti-growth. The realization that emotional independence is possible hits men like a revelation. You don't need someone else's validation to feel worthy. You don't need someone else's permission to be happy. The emotional dependency that relationships create isn't love, it's addiction. Escaping this addiction is the first step toward true strength. It's the realization that your value is internal, not granted by someone else. The reaction from women when men check out is telling, not self-reflection about what might be wrong with the offer, just anger that men are no longer accepting bad deals. Rage that the manipulation isn't working. But here's the thing, rage and shame only work on men who still care about your opinion, and increasingly, they don't. They've found meaning in purpose, not in relationships. Value in growth, not in validation. The leverage is gone because the need is gone. Their sense of self is no longer tied to their relationship status. It is tied to their mission. The men who are done aren't necessarily gone forever. Show them a different deal. They might reconsider. Offer actual partnership instead of servitude. Provide peace instead of chaos. Bring value instead of liability. But until the offer changes, the exodus will continue. Men are simply responding to the market conditions they are presented with. The individual solution is simple. Protect yourself. Recognize emotional manipulation. Reject unfair frameworks. Demand reciprocity. Or walk away. Your happiness matters. Your peace matters. Your life matters. You are not obligated to sign up for terms that destroy you. Accepting these truths isn't misogyny. It's an act of radical self-care. It's setting a standard for your own well-being. This standard becomes the new filter through which all future interactions are judged. Every man watching this needs to understand, walking away is not failure. Refusing a bad relationship is not fear. Protecting yourself is not selfishness. Choosing peace is not weakness. You are not broken for recognizing a broken system. You are not wrong for refusing to participate in your own destruction. The programming that tells you need a relationship to be valuable is lying to you. The culture that says male sacrifice is noble is manipulating you. The society that demands you provide while expecting nothing in return is exploiting you. Men are done with women not because they hate women, but because they love themselves. They are choosing their own well-being over someone else's feelings, their own growth over someone else's comfort, their own lives over someone else's expectations. And that terrifies a system built on male sacrifice. The question isn't, why are men done with women? The question is, why did it take them so long? The deal has been bad for decades. It took this long only because the cultural programming and shaming tactics were so effective at keeping men in line. The shame of walking away is nothing compared to the shame of staying in something that destroys you. The loneliness of being single is nothing compared to the loneliness of being with someone who doesn't see you. Modern men are making a rational choice. They're looking at what's offered, analyzing the costs and benefits, and deciding it's not worth it. This is not emotional decision-making. This is logical analysis. The attempt to reframe this as men being weak or scared is laughable. It takes strength to walk away from social programming, courage to refuse cultural expectations, intelligence to recognize a bad deal. Men aren't retreating. They are advancing in a different direction. What's really happening is the first widespread male rejection of a bad social contract. Throughout history, men accepted whatever relationship deal was offered because they had to. Now, they don't. They can be happy alone. The leverage that forced participation is gone. What happens when men stop participating? When they stop providing, stop sacrificing, stop accepting blame, stop seeking approval, the entire system built on male exploitation collapses. But for individual men, this collapse is liberation. You don't have to participate in your own destruction. You can just walk away, and walking away is winning. The men who are done with women aren't bitter. They're free, not angry, just aware, not broken, but finally whole. They've discovered something revolutionary. They don't need what they were told they needed. The final red pill isn't about understanding women. It's about understanding yourself. Your value doesn't come from female validation. Your worth doesn't require relationship confirmation. Your happiness doesn't depend on someone else. You are enough, alone as you are. This paradigm shift terrifies those who benefited from your programmed insecurity. Your integrity is not negotiable. Your life is your own, not a resource for someone else's emotional comfort. So why are so many men unwilling to be in relationships with women? Because they've discovered that life is better without the drama, cheaper without the demands, more peaceful without the chaos, and more fulfilling without the criticism. They're not missing out. They're moving on. They are moving on to build lives of meaning, peace, and tangible success. I want to hear from you. Men, what was your breaking point? When did you realize the juice wasn't worth the squeeze? Leave your stories in the comments. Let's document this exodus while it's happening, because whether society admits it or not, something fundamental has shifted, and men walking away isn't the problem, it's the solution. We will continue to explore these topics and give you the tools to protect your mind. Understanding these mechanisms is your greatest asset. To not miss our deep analysis and honest conversations, subscribe to the Psycheria channel.